So what would be the most rare CPU model that you have ever seen or tested? I can tell you it's the original single core Xeon, released for the not so known LGA 771 platform. And the funny thing about those CPUs is that they can fit 775 motherboards. When you mod the backside of the CPU with a tape, those modding tapes that short two contact pads together, or they turn or revert two of the contact pins, then you just need a BIOS that supports them, and that's pretty much it. Of course, it varies on the two different chipsets that what models you can run. So P45 can run more of those models than X48, like we are using Rampage Extreme X48 board here. And so the rare CPU model in this case is the Xeon L3014. So this is the like the last and really fast, like properly overclocking single core CPU, and it's fastest for the many single core global points on HWBot. So the way the benchmarks are compared is that the hardware required for single core category is that it must be a single core CPU natively. So you cannot put 9900K in and disable 7 of the cores and run it as a single core. That is not the single core CPU. So 9900K competes in 8 core category. So if you want to compete in a single core category, you have to use a single core CPU, I mean a natively single core CPU like L3014 or Celeron G470 with hyperthreading, but that doesn't clock as high as this. So this is the best CPU. This is extremely rare CPU, pretty much non-existent, and so far all of the chips that I've seen are from one single batch. So this is a very valuable CPU in the eyes of those who are looking for one. So if you have one, then you are extremely lucky, and I happen to own one, and this does quite good. So this does like 5.85 GHz for Cinebench and so on, but it's extremely hard to run proper memory with the CPU on this board. So it requires quite a bit of tweaking to get dual channel running properly. But now I'll use my last bits of LN2 with this, and I'll see if I can improve my scores and take back the score from Noxinite on HWBot. So I'll film if I get something. So if you are wondering why I'm using the Der8auer Beast this time, is that the 775 mounting is quite tight, so the T-Rex base barely fits the CPU socket area, and so I would have to remove all the insulation, so I wouldn't bother. So now I'm just using the Beast for this testing, as it's very easy CPU anyways. Okay, so going through the settings quickly with you. So the cold buck of this CPU is around like -105 to -110. So as I know how it will run, we will be benching at around 640 FSP or a bit over that. 9 is the max multiplier, 2000 plus, 6, 7, 5, 20. Quite tight sub timings. I might set clock twister and transaction booster myself, but I will start with them auto for now. 1.9 on the CPU voltage, as the load of this CPU is very minimal. Load line enabled. PLL is auto. I am setting it manually, so I'm setting it to very low value manually to 1.25 volts roughly. 1.45 VTT, Northbridge 1.68 MEM 1.9 plus, disable spread spectrums and so on. So these are the settings roughly. Disable all the useless things and so on. So I'll just get to the OS and we will continue there. So this Rex is clearly better than my other one. So I did the previous tests, which were also the records for like 2.5 years on my other Rex, which is a bit worse than this. So this is the legendary Team Finland edition Rampage Extreme, which was originally given to SF3D as sample. And the funny thing about this particular board is that it's been dated July 2008. So it's the only Rex ever seen that has this like batch dating. So already what the difference I saw is that on the other Rex I couldn't get dual channel very stable at all. With exactly the same memory kit and CPU, and I went to OS extremely easy on first attempt with 2 hypersticks running, and now I'm running Cinebench over here. You can see it's extremely fast as it's only a single core CPU. Also, for some reason the code bug is a bit worse now, so mine's 90 something. 630 times 9 CPU clock, and I'll push more. But yeah, so that's, I just wanted to point this out. So if you look at my old scores on HWBot or for the Xeon L3014, you can find that all my submissions were done with only single channel memory, because dual channel was extremely unstable no matter what I tried or did. So now it's so much easier. Also, I have 3 operating systems prepped for this. So I have the Windows 7, which is running now, then Serve 2012, which I think is the best one for many things, and then Windows 10 1903 also, but I think I won't use that. So yeah, now I'll just keep testing. Running GeekBench3 at 5.81. It takes like a bit over 1 minute. And I got the dual channel working to some degree now with power chips. So it's very like delicate on the North bridge voltage, that what it can run for it to be stable. So if it's too high, it will not boot. If it's too low, it will just give memory errors. So this is a lot about tweaking and finding the optimal settings. So let's see the score. Should be close to 3400 now with dual channel. So that is the Geekbench 3 multi-core record with the Xeon L3014, the single core category, at 5832. Memory is 2 sticks of hyper now, so I got it running well. So 1945 or so, 675, 20 TRFC 2072 and Common Array 1. Very nice. Around minus 98 on the CPU pop. And that is the Cinebench single core category record at, or score 167 at 5885. I was actually doing it even higher, like 59 something. So 1960, 675, 1860, Common Array 1. Rampage Extreme 1301 BIOS. 5885. Now I'll try 59. But yeah, very good. 167. Yeah, this is fun. So now I'm running a PLL of 1.335, and with that I can run the CPU at minus 106. So the PLL is what matters, what affects code bug, etc., and also the maximum FSP. So now I'm using a stopwatch. I'm using stopwatch to follow where I'm at the benchmark, because I'm using real-time priority. So the whole screen has been hanged. So I can move mouse again once it has passed or it has crashed. So the test takes around a bit under 4 minutes at this speed. So if it takes longer than 4 minutes, I know it has just crashed. So that's how I follow it. Minus 105, 3 minutes 15 seconds, still running. 335 soon. $345, 350 something. Should pass right now, roughly 168. So yeah. So 168. So that's a nice backup. So I had to do Ctrl-Alt-Delete to get Explorer.exe back, as I found that when you are absolutely on the edge, killing Explorer might help with stability a little bit, or it might help with the efficiency. So I think I got the screenshot, but it blue screened. So the CPU speed was at 5.906, so over 5.9 GHz. Absolutely amazing for a single core Xeon socket LGA 771 CPU. Now let's see if I can actually even boot to the OS. So it's quite tricky, sometimes it boots, sometimes it won't. Yeah, it does. At -98. Let's see if I got the screenshot thingy. Yes. So we can take a look at this. $5,906. That is like 1900 megahertz and 70 almost. 675, 18, 60. Rampage Extreme. So yeah. Now the only thing I have left is the GPUPI, but that is hard, of course. Maybe it will happen next time. So that's the end of my fairly short overclocking session on the single core Xeon L3014. So I'm pretty happy. So I got the top score back in Geekbench3 as well as in Cinebench R15. The margin in Geekbench3 wasn't that big, so only like 7 points, but even that is very good. That benchmark is really hard to beat, because you have to have all the key components really well binned. So you need, of course, you need the best CPU that overclocks to 5.85 and even to close to 5.9, and then you need to find a really golden X48 board or a P45 board that can push the memory is high with this particular CPU installed, because even when the CPU should not affect memory stability and memory compatibility on 775, as the memory controller resides inside the North Bridge, whereas it's mostly inside CPU nowadays, which is called the IMC or integrated memory controller. But even when the memory controller is located in North Bridge on 775, when I have any 771 CPU installed on this board, the overall memory stability comes down dramatically. So it's really hard to even run good memory configurations in dual channel. That's why all my previous top scores were made with only single channel memory. So now I managed to finally get a dual channel configuration of LP hypers up to like 1950, and even with 665 18 common array 1 timings in the end. But even like 675 is really good. So if you want to challenge me or the other guys in this particular core count category, you have to bin, of course you have to find the golden CPU, then you have to bin these boards so that the board can really push those memories up in dual channel, and then you have to find a really nice memory kit that can do really nice speeds with tight timings for best performance. So when it comes to the single core category, the fastest CPU in tests like X265, 4K and 1080p is the Sandy Bridge Celeron G470. So that is a locked Sandy Bridge Celeron. So it can only reach clock speeds of like 2.2 GHz, because it's locked, so you cannot change the multiplier, and you can only manipulate the base clock. And if we talk about standard bridge CPUs, the overall margin in base clock is pretty much plus and minus 10%, like 10 to 15% up or down. So there's not that much you can do to that. But when it comes to the like other tests like Cinebench, GPUPI, Geekbench3, GPUPI, these older and much better overclocking chips are better in the end. Even when the Celeron has hyperthreading, these are better. The L3014 as well as the AMD Sempron 145. So the difference between the 3014 and the Sempron 145 is that the Sempron can overclock much higher as it can reach full clock temperatures, but it has much less efficiency, aka IPC performance. So yeah, the best CPUs can reach like even 6.6 GHz or beyond that, but the performance is much worse clock to clock compared to the Xeon L3014. So the only real test where the Sempron dominates is W prime, because W prime is a very old test in and usually run in XP environment. That doesn't really benefit from new instruction sets found inside newer CPU generations. There, the pure core count and pure clock frequency are the things that matter. So of course, the like small IPC gains from newer generations, they do affect W prime performance, but not by a great deal compared to other tests. So when it comes to W prime, the Sempron is the fastest CPU. So if you want to try this whole category, you have to get a Sempron system for that particular test. So W prime. In Cinebench, the Sempron and 3014 Xeon are pretty much on par. So the Sempron is still holding the top score in 11.5. I think I could take it down next time if I just get the CPU to 5.9 plus, as I did in R15. I think I could get the that top score in 11.5. But then that's pretty much it. So the Xeon is faster in Geekbench because this is an Intel CPU. This can run DDR3 memories, whereas the Sempron is a DDR2 platform pretty much. So oh well, it's a DDR2 platform because the DDR2 boards, so AM2 boards, can reach much higher clock speeds than AM3 boards with that CPU generation. So the overall memory performance is much better with the Xeon, so that's why it rules in Geekbench. And of course the IPC is much better in Cinebench, but they are quite on par. So technically, if you found a really golden Sempron, you could take down my R15 record now. And then GPUPI, the Xeon is better. So that's pretty much it, or the overall conclusion about the single core category. But the reason why I wanted to make this video is that this CPU model is for sure the rarest CPU model that ever existed in retail channels. So all the Xeon L3014s that I've seen are from exactly the same batch, which is something like 2008 week 22. So it's extremely hard to even find one or even see one online, like for sale. So if you try to search for one on sites like eBay or similar, it's almost certain that you will never find any. So it's extremely hard to even see one of these. So that's why I think it's quite cool to make this video, as all you guys who are watching this video right now, you probably haven't even heard of this CPU model before. So this is the fastest native Intel single core that still exists. So you have to find one if you want to try the single core category, and then you have to be in boards and memory to get the best possible overall rig. So I'm really happy that I got one. It took me months to even find one, and I was really lucky. So this is one of the best, if not the best, Xeon L3014s out there when it can do 5.9 plus for Cinebench, etc. So there's not really like much overhead that any CPU could go over than that. So I think that's pretty much it. So if you have any questions about this CPU model and how it works on a 775. So the Xeon L3014 is an LGA 771 CPU, but it does work in 775 motherboard with the correct modifications. So you actually don't even need, you don't need a BIOS with the 771 microcode. That is actually not needed. So I just used normal retail BIOS from Asus website. So it will just mount that BIOS update recommended unknown CPU installed or something like this, but it doesn't affect the overclockability or the performance at all. So you only have to manipulate the actual socket or the CPU itself in order to get the CPU clamped to the CPU socket, as the notches are different on 771 and 775. Then you have to short the two particular contact pads on the bottom side of the CPU. So with the available modding tapes that you can buy online, or just short them with some paint or similar, do not use solder, as it will make the bottom side of the CPU uneven. So use silver paint or the modding tape. So but other than that, that's how it works. So the P45 boards, like what Noxinite uses, that can run much higher number of 771 CPUs than X48 board like this. So the X48 boards like this, like the Rampage Extreme, they cannot run the X5000 series 771 Xeons at all. So you are kind of limited in that perspective. So, but yeah, so if you like this video, if you like to see this very and extremely rare piece of hardware in action, then please like and share my video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time.